Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of St. Louis. Hello, my name is Bethany Miscannon, she, her, hers, and I am a worship assistant. We are glad you could join us this Sunday, either in person or online. If you are a visitor or newcomer, we'd like to extend a special welcome. And if you are new to our congregation, be sure to fill out a newcomer form found in the live stream description or in the lobby of the church. Following the service at 11:30 a.m., you're invited to join Reverend Kim in the Dodson Room through the doors at the back of the sanctuary for an informal newcomer chat. If you are attending online, you can connect with each other in the chat, and don't forget that the link for virtual coffee hour can be found in your weekly e-news. We especially want to welcome any families with children. You can connect with Danielle Kazemchek, our Director of Religious Education, for information about our religious education programs for children and youth, or click on the link in the description. Later in the service, there is an opportunity to share personal joys and sorrows. You can submit yours via the online form. You can find the link in your order of service, in the live stream description, or simply aim your smartphone at QR codes around the sanctuary. There are several announcements this morning. Save the date for the Congregational Outreach and Community Engagement Summit number 2 on Sunday, January 28th. Building on our work in the first meeting, in part 2, we will review how to evaluate and choose social action projects and decide which specific projects to pursue. All are welcome, even if you are not able to attend the first meeting. First Unitarian Church of St. Louis has an official TikTok channel. One of the best ways to grow our community is to share our stories. You can help out by sending a 1-minute or less video telling everyone who you are and why you are you. See the e-news for how to submit your video to our AV technician and digital media coordinator, Mo Hurst. The Unfish Fry is coming. Our annual open to the public vegetarian fish fry will be Friday, February 23rd, and we need your help. There are lots of ways to help, from cooking at church to baking at home, from selling tickets to washing dishes and cleaning up. Please join the fun. Being part of the Unfish Fry crew is a great way for new or long-term members to get to know people. See the e-news to sign up. Finally, fresh flowers on Sunday morning are a lovely way to honor a member or celebrate an event here at the church. There are many Sundays available this spring. See Dottie Kinscherf to donate or email her at flowers@firstuustlouis.org. Welcome to this religious community, where we affirm the dignity and freedom of all who enter. Here, we seek to live together in relationship and respect, so that we may embrace and celebrate our differences. Our religious values invite us to a shared journey of truth and meaning. Sincerity and connection guide our religious community and call us into deeper association with ourselves and our world. Welcome. We are glad you are part of our community this morning. Now, please enjoy Toccata Corta by Frescobaldi, performed by our music director, Earl Naylor.
All right, Mo, I have a dead battery. Nope. It's not on. Is it on now? Okay. I think it's picking me up here, actually. Good morning. Thank you for braving the cold this morning. How many people have like 3 layers on right now? I do. I am the Reverend Kim Mason, she, her, hers, and I serve this congregation as your minister. Our theme for the month of January is Liberating Love. I call us into worship with these words from the Reverend Amanda Poppy. This is the house that love made. It is full of the love that the founders felt when they planned out these very walls, when they raised these beams above us. This is the house that love built. It is full of the love of all who have worshiped here, those who have celebrated and grieved here, the babies dedicated, the couples married, the family members mourned here. This is the house that love built. It is full of the love of our children as they learn and laugh together, and our youth as they grow into their own sense of purpose and meaning. This is the house that love built. It is full of the love of the staff who have served it, full of the hopes for this congregation, full of their hard work and their acts of dedication. This is the house that love built. It is full of the love of the choir, the love made so clear in the voices lifted here on Sunday morning. This is the house that love built. It is full of the love of justice, carried out through acts of kindness and compassion that made the world more equitable. This is the house that love built. It is full of our love, the love of this community. Despite our differences and disagreements, the love that holds us together as people. This is the house that love built. Can you feel it? May the love be with us today and always as we gather in this house of love. I invite you to rise as you are willing and able and join in our hymn of the month, number 299, Make Channels for Streams of Love.
Today's chalice reading comes from the Reverend Sarah Gibb Millsbow. Each of us, by our work here contributes to a movement of love. May love hold and heal those who need to be held and healed. May love guide more and more people every day. We light our chalice this morning, knowing that we are blessed to be in the business of growing love. May our work together bless this world.
You can't hear, oh, there I am, okay. Good morning, my name is Danielle Kazemchuk, and I am the Director of Religious Education. Today, instead of a story, I just have this box for you. It is a big box. There's a lot of stuff inside of it, and I was really hoping that you guys could help me figure out what this box is about. Could I get like a helper? Does anybody want to come up front and help me? All right, Theo. I always depend on Theo to help me out here. All right. So let's start by looking at this box. You know, it's got a lot of writing on it. What does it say on the front?
Article and
It is a 2. It's a Roman numeral. I know. I thought about that, and I was like, I hope I don't get a little kid up here who doesn't know Roman numerals, but you do, so thank you. You know, Article 2, have you heard that before? No? What does it sound like? Does it sound like, what do you think it is? Something from a passage. Sounds kind of boring, right? Like what is Article 2? But I've heard it before. So let's see what else is on the side of these boxes, this box. Shared values. Have you ever heard anything like that before? Okay, sharing your experiences or things that you like. All right, what about here? What's on the side here? Sources of inspiration. That sounds really familiar. Have you ever heard that? No? Never heard of that before? Maybe I'm not doing my job. No, you know what? I remember what this is about. This is starting to kind of, it's kind of familiar to me. Let's see what's on this side.
The purpose of Unitarian Universalism.
That sounds really important. The purpose of Unitarian Universalism.
Is that what everything else is?
What everything else is?
No, on the box.
Oh, it definitely has something to do with it. Yeah. So, you know, I was remembering. So, Article 2 is actually the part of our bylaws as a big national church where we have our 7 principles, right? And in the 7 principles, we have our shared values, or otherwise known as the 7 principles, right? And we have our sources of inspiration. But the Article 2 was first made because 2 churches were merging, and they had to decide what they believed. And because they didn't have a creed, that was kind of hard, and they had to have a lot of meetings about it. Let's see what else is inside. Let's see, you want to open it up? It is taped. Here we go. All right.
A bunch of signs.
There's a bunch of signs, yes. You know what?
Sign.
Oh, okay, what does that say?
Original 1961 Article 2 principles.
So these were the original principles that we first had in 1961 when Unitarian Church and the Universalist Church merged. I told this story to Augie this week, and she said, I never knew that. Did you guys know that it used to be 2 denominations? Theo knew. I am doing my job, see? You'll notice, though, there's only 6 principles on this one. Where's the 7th one? Yeah. And you know what else people didn't like about the 1961 principles? It talks about men. It says the dignity and inherent worth of all men. And there were a lot of women, in the UU faith. And in the 70s, it was kind of a big deal, feminism. And they were like, why doesn't this have something else in it? And so they started saying, maybe these aren't really perfect, You know what? I saw something else in here. Let me grab it. There is a Black Lives Matter sign in there. We're going to get to that. So we had these original ones in 1961. There was a lot of meetings and a lot of conversations and people making, compromises about these, but they still felt like they weren't quite right. So changes happened. This is a hymnal. What does it say in front of the hymnal? The living tradition. Does anybody know what that is? We're still in business. That's what he said. Actually, the living tradition means that our faith is a faith that changes. And we can change our minds and grow just like the members of our church. So that's actually where living tradition came from. And if you want to know a little secret, if you'd like to know the current principles and sources, they're inside here, right after the preface. So if you're ever like, I wonder what those are, I've never heard of them before, they're right here. So let's see what else is in this box. All right. We'll start with this one. Okay. So what do you think this has to do with the box? Maybe it's the 7th principle. It could be. Yeah, that's true. Actually, the 7th principle is the interdependent web of all being. Yeah, I know. And it's about loving the earth. And that was added, I have to look at Kim now. Kim, when was the 7th principle added? Was it 85? Okay. So yeah, eventually, the 1961 principles just didn't work for people anymore. Oh, and you know what? I'm skipping ahead. So in the 80s, people came together and said, let's rewrite these things. And that's kind of how we got to the 7 principles that we have, which is what's on this poster, okay? And what's in our hymnals. And so things change, and we changed them in the 80s. We added things. It was kind of like several years of changes. And eventually, there were some Black UUs who said in the early 2000s, 2010 said, maybe we should start talking about racism and oppression, and maybe we need to add something to the principles to say that we are anti-racist. And that's where the 8th principle actually came from. There's an 8th principle, yeah. But the 8th principle was something that a lot of people got together and talked about, and some churches adopted the 8th principle, but some didn't. And so it wasn't a nationwide change through the UUA. But all of those conversations between people at congregations across the nation made people realize, like, maybe we should change the principles again, right? Because the world is always changing, and maybe the 80s principles just aren't working for us anymore. So they got a big group of people together, and they, had a lot of conversations, and they talked to people all across the country in different UU churches, and they came back together and wrote a report about what do UUs across the country really believe and what are our shared values. And what they decided, and they kept coming into again and again, was that love was the center of a lot of our shared beliefs and values. And so when they came up with a new proposal for our values, they put love right at the center. And then because that's just too simple for UUs, they came up with some other words, but they're all values that we all connect back to love. And some of them are really big words like pluralism. Do you know what pluralism means? That kind of is like two things at once, kind of. I don't even know. I had to look it up, and I'm still trying to remember. And there's interdependence, which kind of ties into our old 7th principle. So a lot of this stuff is really familiar when you look at it. But this is what we voted on at our annual conference in June this year, and it was approved, but it has to be approved twice at GA, our general annual conference of UU churches. And so it's going to get voted on again in June. And so we want all of us to know what's going on with this, even though sometimes it can seem really bureaucratic and boring, like Article 2. There's actually a lot going on here, and it's important to us because it's affecting all the churches across the United States. And actually today, Theo, we're going to talk about it in your class. Your mom told you, yeah. He's way ahead of me, way ahead of me. But right now we're going to go ahead and sing all the children out to their classes, and I need help carrying this giant box. What do you think? Let me throw this one in there. Here we go. You got it? It's just big and awesome.
There was a lot of stuff in that box. We're going to talk about it a little bit more in a moment. Each week, we bring our joys and celebrations, sorrows and concerns with us into this community. The love of this community supports us through the challenges and triumphs of life. Now is the time in our service when we connect with one another by sharing our sorrows and concerns. In our community, we are waiting to sign in. Every Sunday, y'all, it logs me out in the middle of worship. I invite you into a space of reflection as we hold those sorrows which we haven't given voice to. Oh my goodness. In our community, we pause together to hold the concern of the chaos in the Middle East. We worry about a friend having surgery who is suffering from back pain. And we carry the difficult decision of whether or not to help a friend with a project and pray for willingness. We hold these concerns with tenderness and compassion. May they be lighter because they are shared. in our community, we also celebrate with one another in moments of joy and celebration. This morning, we wonder with one another as we welcome the sunshine on a cold day and appreciate the warmth of community. We celebrate personal growth and maturity in actions and attitudes. We breathe lighter coming out of depression and approach new days with hope. We are thankful for a warm sanctuary on a cold day. And we are grateful that chest pains turned out to be nothing serious. And we celebrate that next Saturday, someone is getting a new dog. Do we get pictures? We get puppy pictures, right? Yeah. We do have Bring Your Dog to Church Day. That's the animal blessing. With many joys and concerns remaining unspoken in our hearts and minds, please join me in a spirit of prayer and mindful attention. Spirit of life and love, holy within and among us. Sometimes it feels like love is not enough to cure what ails the world. So much hurt, so much sorrow, so much loss. The fear, the hate, the greed, each one wears on the threads that bind us, thinning the connection between ourselves and others, between ourselves and the world. Spirit of hope and grace, source of healing. We watch the world unspooling and wonder, where is my place? Who are my people? In moments of doubt, may we remember that we are not alone. For it is love that rebuilds these bonds and strengthens these connections. Spirit of life and love, great mystery, may we remember that we exist in a web of relationships built of love and mutual trust. This is how we survive. When tragedy and trauma split the threads between us, love can keep us together. When we reach out, when we connect, we renew and rebuild. When we care with compassion and generosity, when we act for peace and justice, love spins the threads of our collective flourishing. May we always know the threads of love in which we are held and in which we hold each other. Amen, and blessed be.
Our first reading comes from Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Marie Brown. When we are engaged in acts of love, we humans are at our best and most resilient. The love in romance that makes us want to be better people. The love of children that makes us change our whole lives to meet their needs. The love of family that makes us drop everything to take care of them. The love of community that makes us work tirelessly with broken hearts. Perhaps humans' core function is love. Love leads us to observe in a much deeper way than any other emotion. If love were the central practice of a new generation of organizers and spiritual leaders, it would have a massive impact. If the goal was to increase the love, rather than winning or dominating a constant opponent, I think we could actually imagine liberation from constant oppression. We would suddenly be seeing everything we do, everyone we meet, not through the tactical eyes of war, but through eyes of love. We would see that there's no such thing as a blank canvas, an empty land, or a new idea. But everywhere, there is complex, ancient, fertile ground full of potential. We would understand that the strength of our movement is in the strength of our relationships, which could only be measured by their depth. Scaling up would mean going deeper, being more vulnerable and more empathetic.
The First Unitarian Church of St. Louis strives to be a welcoming congregation, inspiring lives of loving kindness and integrity by nurturing spirituality, building community, and advancing justice. One of the ways we do this is by sharing the plate. All non-pledged donations received this morning will go towards the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. UUSC advances human rights and social justice around the world, partnering with those who confront unjust power structures and mobilizing to challenge oppressive policies. Their work is grounded in the belief that all people have inherent power and dignity. They support self-determination and defend the rights of people displaced due to climate, conflict, or economic hardships, and respond to humanitarian crises as partners with people whose access to aid is most limited. This morning's offering will now be received. Oops, you got another reading. Oh, right. When I got up this morning, I was certain that this sanctuary was going to be empty, that there were going to be just a few people all bundled up in their coats because it was too cold to go outside. So for your presence this morning, I am so grateful for the warmth you bring to this space and for the other gifts that you bring to our community today and every day. Thank you.
Our second reading this morning is Choose to Bless the World by the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Ann Parker. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. You must answer this question. What will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. There is an embrace of kindness that encompasses all life, even yours. And while there is injustice, anesthetization, or evil, there moves a holy disturbance, a benevolent rage, a revolutionary love, protesting, urging, insisting that which is sacred will not be defiled. Those who bless the world live their life as a gesture of thanks for this beauty and this rage. The choice to bless the world can take you into solitude to search for the sources of power and grace, native wisdom, healing, and liberation. More, the choice will draw you into community, the endeavor shared, the heritage passed on, the companionship of struggle, the importance of keeping faith, the life of ritual and praise, the comfort of human friendship, the company of earth, the chorus of life welcoming you. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility, waiting.
Once upon a time, maybe there was and maybe there wasn't, a rather eccentric-looking young man wearing an old brown suit and holding a small, worn, sticker-covered suitcase. This young man walked into the center of the city, spun around a few times in the middle of the main square, and then looked up at the skyline. Fixing his eyes on the closest house of worship, he made his way to the door. He knocked and asked to speak with the leader. When the leader met him, the young man rose to his feet, immediately stood on one foot, And wearing a curious expression, the leader asked, "How can I help you?" The young man said, "I have come very far, and I wish to settle here and join your house of worship. However, first, I would like you to instruct me in the entire faith as I stand on one foot." Assessing the man to be deranged, the leader promptly showed him to the door. Returning to the city center to repeat his spinning ritual, the young man headed in a new direction to another house of worship where the very same thing happened. A third time, the young man repeated his spinning ritual and headed toward a Unitarian Universalist congregation where he knocked on the door. A gray-haired, middle-aged minister answered the door and showed him into a room. The young man repeated his request, saying, "I have come very far and wish to settle in this town and join your congregation. However, first, I would like you to instruct me in the entire faith as I stand on one foot." The minister looked at him and smiled, saying, "Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. The rest, it's all commentary." Satisfied with the response there and then, and still standing on one foot, the young man decided to settle in the city and join the Unitarian Universalist congregation. How many of you had this experience when you joined a congregation? Nobody? Nobody? This story was inspired by one originally told by the Talmudic sage Hillel. And it is not the experience that most folks have when they walk into a Unitarian Universalist congregation. So much so that many Unitarian Universalist congregations offer an adult RE class on how to write an elevator speech. And even this fall, in the question box sermon, someone asked me what my elevator speech was. An elevator speech in this context being that 5-minute speech that explains this really long name for what should be a really simple church. Anybody else have an elevator speech? No? No? Oh, well, guess who it's coming from? An adult RE. But in reality, our Unitarian Universalist faith offers a wide open welcome that is inclusive of many different beliefs and backgrounds, but it can be kind of hard to explain. Where do you begin? Do you define Unitarian and Universalist? Well, we don't specifically hold those theologies anymore. Many people turn to the 7 principles, which is our covenant for how we'll exist with each other and the world. The problem is that while our principles are deeply meaningful, remember they're in the front of your hymnal if you're not sure what they are, they can be kind of esoteric. And to be honest, even I can't remember all of them all of the time, unless I use the kids' version. To be true, I mean, it's based on Roy G. Biv, it's very easy to remember, but the longer adult version has very big words that hold deep meaning, but don't necessarily broaden immediate understanding for folks coming from other traditions. Our 7 principles are part of our UUA bylaws in a section called Article 2, Principles and Purposes, which lays out the foundation for all the work of our Unitarian Universalist Association and its member congregations. The UUA bylaws require that we revise Article 2 on a regular schedule. And we are currently in a multi-year process of just such a revision. So how many of you tuned me out when you heard the word bylaws? Yeah, I get it. But here's the thing. It's a really big deal. The whole denomination is looking at what we say together is important to all of us. And we decide together if we still agree on that. And if we don't, what is it that we do agree on? How many other denominations do you know that, one, mandate a regular examination of church principles, and two, invite every single Unitarian Universalist everywhere to participate in the process? This is not a top-down thing that happens from the leaders up in Boston saying, okay, we're making a revision and we're going to send out a memo to all the churches. This is a multi-year process with meetings and focus groups and listening sessions and votes and votes and votes and lots of revision because we like to wordsmith everything to death. But we want to hear from everyone, ground up. And I know that sometimes what happens at UUA headquarters can feel a little removed from what we do here every day. But we are literally talking about what it is that we are about as Unitarian Universalists. So what are we about? We've been at this for a few years now. And about a year ago, a proposal was introduced, and a bunch of revisions happened at General Assembly in June, and we're here for another round and another vote. And the proposed new language is a radical revisioning that invites us into dialogue with one another. And right at the center is love. The Unitarian Universalist Association will actively engage its members in the transformation of the world through liberating love. Right there in the middle. Love. Once upon a time, a rather unorthodox doctor who always thought beyond prescriptions, pills, and medications, said to one of his patients, "I'm starting to suspect that the best medicine for humans is love." The patient, rather surprised, said, "What if love doesn't work?" The doctor smiled and said, "Increase the dose." The best medicine is love. It sounds kind of simplistic, doesn't it? And it sounds kind of simplistic when we say, right, our faith is love. We think hearts and flowers and Valentine's Day. But what else can love mean? In this proposed language, the new Article 2 builds our UU communities on a promise of love. Just as the previous language was a covenant, in the beginning it said, "We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote." The language in this new proposal is also a covenant, a promise of how we will behave in our relationships with each other in the world. It begins this way. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant, congregation to congregation, and through our association, to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. inseparable from one another, these shared values are interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice. This is how the love gets out into the world. In a reflection on this image, the Reverend Tess Bomberger writes, "At the center of this image is love. Around it and from it flows values that express that love. This love that sits at the center of this image is not sentimental love or romantic love. It is the love we grow in our communities, a deep and abiding love that affirms our worth no matter what we do or don't do, achieve or believe, whether we have been hurt or have hurt others. It is a hopeful love, a love that inspires people of goodwill and sacrificial spirit to overcome evil and to make the earth as heavenly as possible, just and equitable, pluralistic, affirming all people of all nations, all races, and all creeds." Such a love is the very foundation of liberation. In the reading earlier, organizer and author Adrienne Marie Brown wrote, "If love were the central practice of a new generation of organizers and spiritual leaders, it would have a massive impact. If the goal was to increase the love rather than winning or dominating a constant opponent, I think we could actually imagine liberation from constant oppression." This proposed articulation of our UUA Article 2, that is so not a sexy word, but y'all, it's really, really exciting. This expression is not only an expression of love, but is what it looks like in public. Cornel West used to say that justice is what love looks like in public. But here we have those 6 values are a how-to guide for collective liberation. This proposal of shared values is what love looks like in community. Noted psychiatrist M. Scott Peck, best known for writing The Road Less Traveled, wrote in his book, The Different Drum, Community Making and Peace, that in community and through community lies the salvation of the world. And what is a church if not a community? When love is what holds us together, when love is the central value that inspires all others, when love is the purpose and the promise of community, then we find the healing and transformation necessary for all to thrive. Love is how we create a future of mutual flourishing. Love is how we, as Unitarian Universalists, choose to bless the world. And as the Reverend Rebecca Parker said, none of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility. Love shows us how. And in the spirit of love, I invite you to rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, a song about the paths of love, number 131, Love Will Guide Us. As you leave this place, never forget that love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our community. All the rest is commentary. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace. Please stay for the postlude, and when it ends as your final act of worship, please turn and greet your neighbor.
You guys